This is the EVP Podcast. You're damn right it's the EVP Podcast, and we are your hosts. I'm Ghosty.
I'm Beaker.
And I'm DVO.
What?
Tis I.
Well, damn.
The infamous DVO.
He's
has
back.
returned.
Where did
Finally.
he come from? Guess who's
Well,
back?
you hear me on every episode at the beginning.
Yeah, so there's always a party there.
There's a reason why we haven't changed the intro yet, because we want to make sure that you don't feel left out.
Right. So I'm there at the beginning. And if you join us on social media at EVP Pod, evp.pod, that will be me that is posting, or my assistant, Ghosty Noser.
Yeah.
And we will be the one that will respond to you if you comment. But go ahead and please go to evp.pod on social media and make sure you're following us real quick.
If you want to hit me up, though, I'm the one that usually answers the emails in the YouTube concerts.
We're doing a
YouTube
concert.
concerts. The YouTube comments. That will usually be me. Ghosty, he doesn't like talking to
I'll
people.
pop in and like everybody's stuff.
Yeah. If it's liked, it's Ghosty. If you're on YouTube or email, it's Beaker. And if you're on social media, it's DVO.
That's right.
That's how you know who you're talking to.
Yeah, let's go like everything. I see the notifications.
So if you're not
That's
getting
for
responses to your email, please send hate. You can send the hate email to me because I won't read it. No, I'm just kidding.
But if you like my post, go ahead and make sure you comment so it makes me feel better about my day.
Make you feel like you did something positive.
Yeah, exactly. And I was the one doing all the reaction videos, which kind of delayed because of my issues over the summer. But I am feeling great.
Feel like
kind
reacting?
of a shit year for all of us, hasn't it?
It sure has.
Yeah,
Sure
yeah.
has.
Yeah, so I've been dealing with cancer, and I'm kicking its ass, and so I wasn't very much on social media over the summer. And our good friend, guest of the podcast, Castle, he's going through his thing as well. So we want to wish him the best of luck to him as well. He made that public recently. So
Yeah, I actually saw him the other day. He's doing pretty good.
I like
That's
to hear
good.
that.
That's
I
good.
like to hear
He's
that.
got some high hopes, it sounds like.
I like to hear that.
But he's also, there's a lot of, I went on a ghost hunt. An investigation. So
That's
remember,
right.
after,
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
right after the last episode, at this point, you're going to have, what do we do? Josue. Yes, we talked about Josue. And then I went straight to a residential investigation. And this one was actually really interesting when I got there. The team that I went with, a couple of them had actually been to this home before, and they had taken some other people from our old team with them, and
And this location was
a house,
in the city of
Utah.
Utah, where we like to party.
Yeah, I don't give out cities of where people live, of
Okay.
the houses I go to. So it's somewhere in the northern part of Utah that could be anywhere from, let's see, Nephi.
Central Utah and up.
It could be anywhere from Nephi all the way up to Logan.
Perfect.
So figure that one out, fellas. So I get to this house. Like I said, people have been there before. This family has been experiencing some stuff. And I guess the activity had kind of ticked up a little bit, which kind of makes sense because we had just finished, well, y'all have just finished spooky season. It's 24/7, 365 for me. But things had kind of ticked up a little bit. And when I got the phone call asking if I could help with this house, just over the phone, I'm like, okay, you have at least 3, if not 4 spirits in the home. I'm like, 2 of them are female and 1 is male. Like, I got that just on the phone call. So I get there and I find out there's actually a lot more than that.
Okay.
I was able to pinpoint the 3 that I picked up on the phone. They were actually spirit guides of some of the family members. Those are the ones that I was
They were
kinda-
trying to talk to us. Man, you better not show up, man.
Yeah, the spirit guides are like, hey, no, yeah, we don't want help at all.
It's crazy.
Because that's how spirit guides work.
Yes.
This guy, where did you find this guy?
My mom's house.
Oh, that's a good
I
place
was
to find him.
adopted.
I didn't
Next
want to
door.
say anything. You must have both been adopted because you guys look like twins almost. You found him next door. He was on the doorstep of the firehouse.
Next door to my bedroom.
We took him in. So yeah, I get there and I could tell there was one spirit that really wanted to talk to me.
Okay.
And I actually when I first walked in, there's the office like right there on your left, and I kind of looked in there because I felt some energy in there, and then I saw that like the dad was sitting there, so I was like, okay, maybe that's what I'm feeling, and I didn't really put any thought into it until our good friend Mark was also there,
Your dad's been dead for 10 years.
Yes. Not really. So Mark also, like, at one point the dad came out, introduced himself to us, and then he went downstairs with some of the kids watching TV. And Mark said he saw someone walk through the hallway into that office, and he asked the homeowner if he could kind of go explore a little bit, and she's like, yeah, go right ahead. And he gets down there, the doors are closed to the office, and there's nobody in there. But he said he saw someone walk into the office.
Okay.
So right there, like, we'd both kind of felt something in that front office. But then I start feeling like upstairs on one part of the house, I'm like, there's a spirit that really wants to talk. I'm like, there's a spirit right up in here. And the homeowner, her eyes kind of lit up, and because that's where people had told her there's spirits before as well. Okay. So I was actually able to converse with the spirit, find out her name was like Mallory, and that she was the youngest daughter's spirit guide and had been with her from birth.
Okay.
And was like really excited that I was there because she knew that I would be able to help her family out. The spirit guide was like an ancestor somewhere down the line. So she was excited that I was there, or that we were there, because she knew we'd be able to kind of help this family out. And then after talking to her, we kind of moved on, found that there in the next bedroom over, in the boys' bedroom, there was a grumpy spirit in the closet. And after talking to him for a little bit, we figured out that he's someone that used to live in the house, but before it is the way it is now. Like, this is the second house that's been on the property. So I guess he lived there in the first house, and he was a little confused and kind of upset because he was like,
who's in my house?
Right.
Where's all my shit?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he was grumpy, and he thought he was being funny, like messing with the kids at night while they were sleeping.
You guys steal my shit?
Pretty much, yeah. So I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I've got some other spirits I need to talk to, because I kind of picked out there was about 6 or 7 spirits in this home, not just the 3 I originally thought there were. There was one before we really got started, I could tell that he was like kind of crawling around. The best way I could describe him is it was kind of like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but before he like made his full transition into Gollum, where he was still like Smeagol a little bit, like in the in-between point. And I'm like, okay, this one really doesn't want me here, so I'm going to talk to that one in just a little bit, but I'm going to figure out all these other spirits as well. So we get into the main bedroom, and we're able to, and it was funny because before I even like said anything, some of the other investigators were like, there's a spirit in that corner, that corner, that corner. And I'm like, yeah. We even had the dowsing rods. Like, hey, where are the spirits at in this room? And they pointed to all 3 of those corners. We figured that 2 of the spirits were actually twins, like siblings, brother and sister. And they came into the home with an antique bell that she had picked up at like an antique shop. And these 2 spirits were waking her and her husband up at night, simply because they thought the bell was really cool and hated the fact that this bell was hidden in their bedroom and not out on display for everyone to see.
So was that bell ringing or anything?
The bell didn't. No, it didn't ring at all. It's a big like hand bell, like a big handle on it. The bell on the bottom. It was a really cool designed bell, and I kind of agree with the spirits. They're like, this should be out in the open. People should be able to see this. And I talking to them a little bit. We determined that the spirits were kind of like, okay, we'll leave y'all alone if you put the bell out so everyone can see it. So I had the family move the bell out into their main living room. And the spirits seemed to be kind of happy with that. We got to the point where kind of got the impression that some of these spirits wanted to cross over, so ended up like opening up the light for them. The twins went right away because they were happy now that the bell was out in the open. The other guy, the one that used to live there, I think he told me his name was Daniel. The twins were Steve and Ava, and the twins, like I said, went right away. Daniel took some talking, some convincing. He didn't really want to go because he didn't understand what was going on. He didn't know what was going to happen if he went, but it was funny because I was actually talking about some other spirits I helped at like Benson Grist Mill, and they actually showed up and they're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, he's helped us. We're good. So it was kind of cool to have
other spirits came through and vouched for you?
Yeah. Yeah, actually it was pretty cool having that.
That's pretty dope.
So he ended up crossing. And then that's when we were able to pinpoint like I said, the 3 spirits I picked up on, the 2 female and the 1 male. were spirit guides for the family. But then the last spirit, the seventh spirit, the more I was investigating, the more I was kind of filling out, we had actually determined that this golem-looking thing was actually a shapeshifter, and what it was doing was trying to look like the other spirits in the home.
It's trying to blend in.
It was trying to blend in, but
His blender was broken.
It was. His blender was very broken because if you've learned anything from us about inhuman entities, when they try to take on human form, they can't.
They don't look right.
Which is why he kind of, to me, looked like a Smeagol type creature, right?
Yeah.
So, and we found that feeling we felt when we first walked in, that thing that Mark saw go into the office, that's what we saw. That's what we were feeling, was this shapeshifter, more or less. So we started doing like a little bit of a house cleansing. They ended up doing some priesthood blessings on the house and on the property. And afterwards, I tried to put like a shield or a bubble around the house to kind of keep things out. And we all felt pretty good about it. Like, kind of used my pendulum, asked the spirits that were still in the house. That's how I usually communicate with spirits, is through a pendulum. Mm-hmm. Mike and Terry were also there. They used the dowsing rods. It works really well for them. That's how we're getting a lot of this information. So we kind of talked to the spirits that were still in the home, got the impression that all the bad spirits, or all the spirits that didn't need to be there, were gone. Okay. So we called it good. We left. The next day I get a text message asking, there was the homeowner had asked Mike if the shapeshifter could have come back. And I'm like, it's possible. Let me do some meditation. Let me ask around. And by ask around, I mean, I talked to Brandy and asked her some questions. And she's like, yeah. So what the shapeshifter ended up doing is it did leave the property. And it waited until I left, or that we left, and then it snuck back in the house. And I was told that the shield was still there, but I didn't completely bind it and close it down properly. So there were still kind of like holes in the shield. So I was able to get back in.
Sounds like you going back for round 2.
Most likely. And Brandy will be there with me to help ensure that the protection spells are put on properly this time.
And what was the family experiencing that made them call the team out?
So they were having the two boys with the guy in the closet. They were getting growled at. It just felt really heavy in that room. They were getting poked, and their beds were being shaken in the middle of the night.
Okay.
The master bedroom, the mom, she was being poked at night. She was being pulled. She was seeing apparitions in her room. She actually saw one of the spirits trip walking through the bedroom.
Oh, gosh.
So they were seeing things, hearing things. They were being touched. Like, just all sorts of stuff that you don't want.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in the middle, it's the middle of the night, you're trying to sleep, and someone's poking you and shaking your bed.
Aliens, man.
Aliens.
Interesting. Okay.
So we were able to help for the most part. Unfortunately, like, it's one of those where
a stowaway.
It went away while we were there, and it was a little bit smarter than me in this occasion, and it happens. But
it knows more than you.
It does, yes. In this instance, it did. So yeah, I probably will be going back out with the proper help to make sure it leaves and stays gone.
Okay.
Well, all right, man. That's pretty interesting. I'm glad you were able to share what you could here. Well, now we're going to go where my Tesla stock is going, to the moon. So, have you guys heard anything about this theory about the moon being hollow?
I've heard of it.
You have heard of it.
Is it hollow though? Isn't it more like Swiss cheese, like it's green cheese?
That's kind of what we've always thought. I didn't know it was like this porous or what it is. I never even heard about this hollow theory. But when I seen the topic on this, and already my mind being blown by the Earth being hollow, I was wanting to deep dive into this.
You just like hollow stuff.
I like getting into things.
I think you're just trying to fill the gaps.
I do like to fill the gaps.
You're trying to fill in the voids in your life by finding hollow things
to fill.
Yes,
but to fill my time with.
For the occasion, I wore my Omega Moon watch today. For the occasion,
that is a dope watch.
I did not.
So science, they still haven't been able to prove some things. How the moon was formed. It does have this unusual orbit. The distance from us and why it is like that, because does seem to be this perfect distance. Its density, its composition, and its structure. And, with them still having these kind of questions, there's just theories out there right now.
Right.
So everything that we know of about the moon or how it was created is all just theories. And to a lot of scientists, the only theory that comes about to make sense to them is that if the moon was actually hollow. And this is coming from like NASA scientists, the cosmonaut scientists. A lot of these scientists come to this type of agreement that this shit probably is hollow.
I want to know what Werner von Braun thought about this.
I don't know. We should probably hit her up.
I don't think he's around anymore.
Use the Ouija board.
Okay. That's definitely what I want to do is use a Ouija board to contact a Nazi war criminal.
It's the only way you're going to get them.
Mr. von Braun.
Well, you can't use a telephone. That's for damn sure.
Is the Earth hollow? The moon.
So there's ancient cultures actually that go all the way back to talking about the moon and its start of its existence. And so the Roman and Greek authors from the 5th century BC, they write about this place called Arcadia. And this is a time, and they talk about a time before there was a moon.
Arcadia is where you find Centipede and Space Invaders.
They're Arcadia. And then there's the Tiwanaku people from Bolivia. They're the one that did the Easter Island statues. So around that same time, they refer to a time when there was no moon. And they claim that the moon arrived around 11,500 to 13,000 years ago. That's when the moon actually arrived. And then you have the Zulu legends from Africa that talk about the moon, that specifically say the moon is hollow and it's inhabited by, guess who? Lizard people.
Reptilians.
Oh my goodness.
But this is Zulu legends. This isn't anything new. This is before our time.
Reptilians.
And
I would believe the Greys before the reptilians.
I'm not big on the reptilians either, but maybe we should get into an episode of that one day.
Okay, well, I'll just bring Nicole along and have her talk about it.
We definitely should. They also talk about the arrival of the moon, and when it did arrive, it stabilized the climate and it changed the tides. And this is the Zulu people talking about it changing the tides, where how did they know that the moon had anything to do with the tides or the seasons being able to change? Because that's all science
aliens,
stuff.
Man.
Kind of, I don't know.
I think they had science back then.
Different science, but how do you know that moon had anything to do with the tides? That's crazy. So anyways.
Magic.
It is magic, actually. So the Sumerian people, along with the Zulu people, they do speak of, they have legend that speak of these two brothers who are, I don't know if you've heard of the Anunnaki. Mm-hmm. So they're these two brothers who are of the Anunnaki. They actually, in these legends, built the moon. And without the moon's gravity, of course, the world that we know it would be wobbling on its axis. There would be no seasons. There would be no water currents. The weather would be the extremes on all ends. And with the moon, it allows for life on Earth to thrive. And there was so much water vapor. They say, there would be so much water vapor in the air without the moon as well, that you wouldn't be able to see much, very far in front of you because of all that. So by adding the moon, when it did come into play all of a sudden out of nowhere, it would cause all that water vapor to drop. And with all that water vapor dropping, it would end up causing a massive flood. And what happens is all these ancient cultures had to all talk about a massive flood happening around that same time. And so all these different cultures from all over the world around between 11,500 13,000 years ago all talk about this massive flood. And around that time...
so there's a Bible.
And it's all written based off of all these older texts that talk about it. And all these ancient cultures talk about this massive flood. And it all kind of correlates with the same time of when they say this moon appeared. So this is kind of where... they're basing some of this stuff and taking it back to all these ancient cultures. And so what we've been taught about the moon is that it's been here since the beginning of the Earth. And the controversy is that no scientist can actually agree on how it was formed. There's just all these theories out there, and no one can agree on which one sounds the best. So some of the ones, this is the one that I remember hearing about and that made sense to me, but actually makes absolutely no sense at all, was that the moon was just floating by, and the Earth's gravity kind of pulled it in and just kind of sucked it in, and it's there now. I don't know. That I remember hearing that one, and that one's just stuck with me.
I mean, there is a comet that kind of is doing that right now.
But
it's like our small second moon. Like that's literally going on right now.
But the size, the way this is, the size of it and everything, and us being able to just grab it and pull it in, it's way too close for us to be able to have grabbed it like that. Like it would have just collided with us. It would have just taken us out pretty much.
You don't know that.
And then they have the accretion theory.
Maybe it was part of the giant asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. It just broke apart. And now it's there.
But we'll talk about some things that we'll see. We're
going to talk about dinosaurs?
We could. So the accretion theory, and that is that the moon and the Earth were formed out of dust clouds in the early solar system. But if that were the case, they would share similar traits. And if that had happened, the moon would have an iron core like the Earth, and it would spin on an axis, but none of those are true. That doesn't happen. Then you have the fission hypothesis, and this says that early Earth was spinning so fast that the moon was formed out of a rock in the Pacific Ocean that was flung into space. But then we learned that the moon rock is much older than the bottom of the ocean, so this isn't true either. Then there's the giant impact theory, and that a large object the size of Mars smashed into the proto-Earth, and the debris field from the collision coalesced and to create the Earth and the moon. And the odds of that happening is also highly unlikely because so many conditions would all have to be perfect for that to happen. Like this would have to be here, this would have to be here. There would have to be so many coincidences to be perfect for that to even have taken place. And then the newest theory that they have is that it's kind of like a combination of all those theories. And you have a large object that collided with Earth about 4 billion years ago. This would have vaporized Earth, and the vapor is called synthesia, and then that would be spinning so fast it would create a torus. And in geometry, it's when our spheres makes a 3D, like a circle around an axis, and that's like a donut shape, and that's a torus. And the moon formed at the edge of this torus and just kind of flung off, and everything kind of slowed down. That also is very unlikely. So finally, NASA decided, let's go to the moon and collect some rocks. And when they did so, this ended up just creating more questions. So what happened was, since they landed on the moon in 1969, they've been studying all the minerals that they've been collecting. And
well, that's assuming they landed on the moon.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm all for it, but if I remember correctly in our moon landing episode, you guys were kind of on the fence.
I think that we made it to the moon, but not when we said we did.
3 times. 1969, 1970.
I think we went there. The first time we made it there was just it wasn't when we said it was probably a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
We just had to win the race is all. Oh, but there's this quote real quick from someone in NASA. And he said, "It seems much easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence."
I think you can apply that to pretty much anything.
No, there's some things you can easily tell how it was made. But so since landing on the moon in 1969, we've been studying those minerals, and we ended up finding these weird occurrences that were happening between the moon and Earth. A lot of things being opposite. So on Earth, you have the newest rocks on the surface, and as you get deeper, the rocks you find become older. And what happens on the moon is backwards. The soil, as you right there, the stuff on top is way older, and as you go down, it gets newer. Which how is that even possible?
Where'd you hear that one at?
This is what NASA was discovering. And so the soil on the surface is older than the soil underneath, and the surface rocks are older than the rocks underneath them. And the only way this happens on Earth is when we drill and we dig and we mine. and bringing the older material to the surface. That's what happens. Now, if the moon was somehow hollowed out, the older rock would be on top. That would actually, that would make sense. But the weird things just keep going on and on and on after, just past that. So typically, planetary structures have denser materials toward the core and lighter material toward the surface. And on the moon, that's also backwards. And then you have all these pockmarks from asteroid impacts on the moon. And, there's different sizes. You have those big wide ones, you have these little ones. For billions of years, these things have been hitting the moon. And you would expect the rock around the impact craters to create different, to be different ages of rock because they've been hitting at different times. And what's weird is a lot of those rocks or the debris are all about the same age. And the chemical makeup of the lunar dust is also different chemicals than the actual minerals around them, which they should be the same, and they're not. And the moon rocks, the moon's supposed to be highly magnetized, and the moon itself is not. But the moon rocks are finding they are. So it's weird that the small moon rocks are, but the moon itself is not giving off any magnetism.
We're finding this on moon rocks that have been brought back to Earth.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to do with the Earth atmosphere that's magnetizing them.
You think they would figure that out because they're scientists, right?
You would think.
And then here we have the Earth being 4.6 billion years old, and we know that. But the oldest moon rocks are way older than that.
Do we know that?
It seems like we do.
Oh, okay.
Carbon dating.
Yeah. So we've been able to date things
That's
back
not what the Bible
Earth,
says.
Right? So the Earth being created 4.6 billion years ago, the moon shows it being way older than the Earth. And if they were supposed to be built together, or they were supposed to be formed together, or somewhat the moon after the Earth.
Why are they supposed to be built together?
Just the way that they're thinking the theories are.
Oh, just based off their theories.
Based off the theories. So what they've been finding is that with the moon rocks being, dated way back from the very beginning of the solar system is how far they've been dating some of these, and some even older than that. And
rocks older than the Big Bang?
Well, older than maybe. I don't know. That's what I've been reading about. And so then you have these isotopes, uranium-236 and neptunium-237, and they're found all over the moon. And the only way we see them here on Earth is if we actually create them. We have to make these things, and that's and they're highly what's that word called? Radioactive. Oh, that's another word. Yeah. So it's a radioactive chemical.
Divya, what have you been going through?
Radiation. Tell us what it is. And then you have these minerals, the titanium, chromium, and zirconium. And here on Earth, those are rare minerals. But then on the moon, they're in abundance. They're all over the place. And if the moon and Earth were formed together, why are these such big differences?
Because they were used from different building blocks.
We used them all up. Yeah, we'd be able to find them.
They ran out of materials for the Earth, so or after building the Earth, because the moon's a lot smaller. They're just like, hurry, throw this shit together.
So these metals are also actually the strongest metals that we know of. And on top of that, they aren't easily susceptible to corrosion.
I'm pretty sure adamantium is the strongest metal we know of.
So far. And so these metals would actually be the best metals to use when it comes to reinforcing any type of a structure. Dun, dun, dun.
So what you're saying is Bruce Willis and his team need to go up there and bring these metals back.
Probably no. So we have these metals here. It's just like it's the same. There's a lot of it up there, which is rare
untapped
here.
Resources.
So the structure being reinforced would make sense if there was some type of a shell underneath, underneath all that, and being made of that metal. And when we see these crater impacts, we see them all over the place, right? So all over the moon. And what's weird about them is they're all the same depth. And
once they make contact with the moon.
Once they've made contact with the moon, all these craters are the same depth.
Because there's no gravity.
It doesn't matter if they're flying at the moon and they're hitting it. It doesn't matter if there's gravity or not. And you have all these different sizes, wide, small. You see a wide one like that, you would think it would make a bigger impact or go deeper. So
maybe it was a big one that was traveling slower.
But it's as if something is keeping anything from penetrating a certain depth. Like it's hitting a shell. Penetrating. It's not penetrating.
It's got some penetrative protection.
So we wanted to test this theory, right? So Apollo 12.
We started throwing rocks at the moon.
Yes, they did. They sure did. So Apollo 12, they were the first one to throw a rock at the moon. And what they did was they put a seismometer.
Well, they were doing that already just to check if there's any earthquakes.
Yeah, they want to check for
moonquakes.
Moonquakes. They want to check for moonquakes. What's that thing called? The seismometer?
Yeah.
Seismometer.
Seismometer.
Yeah, so they put that down there. They're testing things. And they dropped, so Apollo 12, they ended up dropping the lunar lander from up high. And when it hit the moon, and from their equipment, it ended up ringing like a bell. And it reverberated for more than an hour. And they're just like, what the hell? And so then when they sent Apollo 13 up, they sent a heavier object to drop on it, with this one with a little thruster on it to kind of really give it a boom. And this time, the moon rang for more than 3 hours. And the vibrations traveling all the way down, down 20 miles. Where on Earth, it would only have reverberated for a couple minutes, just a few minutes. And that's because of Earth's density. And also on Earth, the vibrations slow down as they move towards the center. And on the moon, it ended up getting faster as it reached 40 miles. These vibrations just getting faster and faster, like nothing's slowing it down. And what's weird is the moon is about 25% the size of the Earth.
That's because there's no friction in space.
It doesn't matter. Space, there would be something there blocking the vibrations. There's nothing to block the vibrations.
Right. This is why they got faster and faster. That's how friction works.
Yeah, exactly. So with us having all this dirt and rocks and everything within side of the Earth, all those vibrations are hitting those things, and those things are slowing it down.
Right.
Where on the moon, nothing was slowing it down.
I got it. I got what you're saying now.
Yes.
Because there's no friction.
Yes. It's all about friction, baby.
That's what slows vibrations down.
That's what slows you down.
Friction. There's that tears. They help keep the friction from happening.
Keep the friction. So the moon is about 25% the size of the Earth, but only 1% of its density. And this were only making sense if the moon was actually hollow. So no other planet has a moon this size. Like
our moon is bigger than other?
No. Compared to the size of the Earth. 25% its size. So no other planet has a moon 25% its size.
Are those moons hollow?
We haven't cared to look at those yet, I don't think. We should though.
Yeah, we should.
But I don't think those planets are inhabited.
But you have to compare.
Well, maybe
not that we know of.
Well, we need to
because like if this moon of ours, this space egg that we have, is hollow.
I like that space egg.
Space egg. Have you not heard that before?
No, I do like that.
I'll show you a meme I have later.
Okay.
So, if this is like a space station that some alien life form put here, because that's one of the theories, right?
Mm-hmm. Reptilians.
And
Anunnaki.
Okay. That one's more believable than the reptilians. But who's to say that these other planets aren't inhabited, just not by humanoids, if that makes sense? Like, there could be something else. There could be other life forms. I've seen enough Star Trek to know that not everything... there's M-class planets that humans can live on, right? But there's other planets that, like, other species can live on because they breathe carbon or whatever. Mars Attacks also taught me that. They had to choose bubblegum to be able to walk around on our planet. They're carbon-based life forms or whatever. So who's to say these other moons aren't just other space stations for these other planets?
Maybe they all are. I like the idea. I think you're onto something. Well, you don't like the idea that I'm agreeing with your weird-ass theory? Because
this theory that I'm just pulling out of my ass, you're like, yeah, no, it's a great one. I like that one. Let's do that.
Well, let's talk about it because you've been going on.
Yeah, I've
here.
been going on. No one's stopping me. Let's unpack
I've been
stuff.
trying. You just keep going.
Yeah, let's unpack some things.
You've seen the goal line, and you're just like, I'm just gonna go. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
So we're talking about these other, like the Zulu nation, things like that, saying that all of a sudden the moon was created.
Yes.
But if we know the moon is billions of years old, that'd been way before these people existed. So I don't know if I would take their stories into how much credit I would give their story if they're saying, "Oh, we remember when the moon was created, but it was billions of years old." The moon. Well, so, maybe that's when it joined our orbit.
Well, here's the thing that they've so them saying that the moon came in here this time. Well, what we've been seeing is that the moon rocks itself are older than the Earth.
Uh-huh.
So who's to say this wasn't built somewhere else with older rocks and then brought over here?
I don't know.
Yeah,
aliens, man.
Hey, that's what we're saying.
If it was flown here, but that doesn't. But that why does the fact that our gravitational pull didn't pull in something and then it became our moon because it pulled in and it started joining our orbit, started orbiting around us, and it just. Why I don't know why that's why
theory. That's what the
right.
First theory.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that theory.
I don't either. I mean, you're talking about
that's the one that we've been taught, and
I've not been taught any of these theories. I have literally never looked into like why is the moon there. It's just
I remember that theory when I heard that. I remember that theory, so I don't know if it was taught that or was told that.
Look,
but I remember.
I'll just say this right now: I didn't like science class. I was more into the math class and history, which they didn't really talk about the moon in history. You're talking about like geography and stuff like that. But no, that makes sense. Like what Devio's saying, the moon's older than the Earth, right? So who's to say it wasn't some sort of asteroid that was just happened to be on the right trajectory, and it came into the moon's gravitational pull, and it's just like here feels good.
So tell me this. You think that size of an object coming straight at us is going to just slow down and we're just going to grab onto it?
Yep.
Without it impacting us?
Uh-huh.
So
I highly doubt that.
Are you saying asteroids have a momentum that doesn't stop until they impact something? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, what stops an asteroid from hitting anything?
Friction.
Friction, baby.
We're back on friction.
But look at the size of that. We have smaller asteroids that fly in and still impact us. It leaves us craters.
And we also have one that's currently orbiting the Earth.
And we have... It's doing this thing where it does a slingshot.
But it's still doing it.
But why didn't we slingshot the moon?
Because it doesn't feel like it.
Or maybe because it's too big to do that.
I think they've been studying this. I think they've been studying that why theory for a very long time, and it's still very highly unlikely.
I mean, I don't know this. I don't study asteroids and things like that, so I don't know if they slow down. I don't know the answers to this, so I'm not going to say it's highly unlikely or it is highly likely because I just don't study them. But I don't see how it's not plausible that it could. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Do asteroids and meteorites do they just soar until they make impact? I don't know. Maybe they do, or sometimes they just start. They eventually, at some point, they just start slowing down because.
If we had something coming at us the size of the moon, it would completely destroy us.
If it was coming at us, but what if it was already stopped? What if it had been soaring miles and miles, hundreds of thousands of miles, and now it's starting to slow down, and now it's just drifting.
Well, here's the crazy thing: is nobody has the answer.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
I'm just saying it's not unlikely. It's very likely.
It's more mysterious than that. The ocean. There's a lot we don't know about the ocean.
That's why NASA moved to space, because they couldn't figure out how to get down there in the ocean.
It was easier to go to space than be crushed in the depths of the ocean.
Because we talked about is the perfect distance to the Earth, but I think that's true. It is the perfect distance to the Earth
when it comes to this. So here's what I mean when it comes to that. Here, I'll tell you in this next little bit. So no other planet, like I was saying, has a moon that's 25% its size.
What are the other sizes? Like they're like 90%?
They're significantly smaller than the planet that they orbit.
Oh, okay.
So ours is 25% the size of us, and that's significantly bigger than any other planet that has moons.
Okay.
And it also orbits at a much closer than it actually should. And its orbit doesn't make sense either, because it's the only object that we have seen that has a near perfect orbit, a circular orbit, to where we only see that side of it at all times. The way it circles us and the way we circle it, it doesn't ever change. Where had it be any other distance or whatever, or smaller, it would be in a way where we would see different angles of it. Not only that, but because of the size that the distance that it is, we see it as the same size as the sun.
So if people are listening or watching, what Ghosty is saying
that
is
aren't from Earth. This is what we're saying.
From where you currently are, and you're looking at the moon, you're always going to see that side of the moon, no matter what.
We don't see the dark side.
We don't see the dark side ever.
That's you know why we don't see the dark side. Because that's where Megatron is hiding the pillars to bring Cybertron to the Earth.
And that's
and
why.
Combine them into one giant planet.
So because of that being the same size, that to appear the same size, we're able to see eclipses because of that. Otherwise, we would not be seeing eclipses, and we would be seeing different angles of the moon. But it just so happens to be at this perfect distance with this perfect circular orbit that it doesn't change the way we see it ever.
And my thought is, due to the perfect distance from Earth, the moon, and the sun, that is why we do exist. If it was, I think if it was off tilted or a further distance away, I don't think maybe that's why. I don't think it would. Maybe it would not sustain life on Earth, and that's why we are possibly the only humans or living beings in our solar system, because we are the perfect distance from the sun. We are the perfect distance from the moon.
So, I mean, we didn't need the moon to have life and to have existence on here, but we needed the moon to have a perfect balance of things when it comes to the orbit of the Earth spinning on its axis, and the tides changing, and the climates changing for seasons, water to flow through rivers and everything like that. We wouldn't have that had there not be a moon. And so what one of the theories talking about is these Anunnaki gods who are playing, let's play and create people on this planet. If they were to notice that as well, being the high scientist professors they are, they create this moon. Maybe they have them in stock on another solar system somewhere, and they grabbed one and planted it here for us. Like, here, you guys need one of these. Totally forgot this when we built you.
Yeah, that one's interesting. That's an interesting theory.
But just saying that they know that these creators had seen this problem. To solve it, they planted this moon there.
Okay.
You know what this place is missing? Seasons. Give them a moon.
Yeah, and rivers and
Not
tides.
every place has seasons.
These humans must be bored because it's the summertime all the time. So here's a moon.
No, it's just extreme weather. Temperature changes.
All right, let's talk about the floods. Mm-hmm. And obviously we think of Noah's Ark, right? And I was just listening to a podcast about it, so that's why it makes me think of it. Is the timing, I don't know if you know the answer, is the timing about the same of the moon arriving, it causing floods because it disperses the condensation or moisture in the air? Is that what it was?
Yeah, all the condensation that we have. Like, we have all this, water vapor that's...
Water vapors, like that. I wonder if that aligns around the same time of Noah's Ark times.
So there's a time period that this lines up with called the Younger Dryas.
Okay.
And I don't know too much about that, but there's a lot of weird things that are said to have happened during this time period. A lot of mythical and spiritual things. I don't know too much about that whole time, or I haven't looked into it either. But the Younger Dryas is supposed to have a lot of things like, and this would have happened during that period. Interesting.
That is very interesting. We talked about the moon landing.
Yeah.
One thing I was just kind of realizing on the research of the moon landing, because there's skeptics out there if we really did it or not. But one thing that I was watching that made me kind of like, okay, that's interesting, was remember when we were sending, was it Apollo 11?
Yeah.
When we were sending Apollo 11 there, that was going to be live. and the whole world was watching that, especially the Russians. But they did get the live feed because they were televising it around the world. So China was watching it, Russia was watching it. I'm sure other countries were watching it as well, and they were getting that feed from the moon or from outer space. So
or Burbank, California.
Well, I guess they can track where they get the feed from.
Okay.
So they can track where they're getting the feed from. That's my understanding from what I was watching. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That could show some evidence that we did go to the moon. We filmed it, and they were getting the live feed from our live feed of the cameras from the moon. But where there's doubt is because NASA did lose a lot of footage, and they were using some of their training videos because they were training the astronauts about this. They were using some of those training videos and showing that as proof. And people were like, no, that's not right. And NASA's like, okay, yeah, we used some, or there were whistleblowers that actually said, yeah, we did go. The whistleblowers are saying that I saw. I'm not saying all of them. Some are saying, yes, we did go. We did lose some of the footage, so we were using training footage as things we were showing. But they're also showing some actual live footage. But beyond all that, I did think that was interesting that, yes, Russians, the Chinese, other countries were watching us go to the moon, and they were getting that broadcast from outer space, not from California, not from Stanley Kubrick, not from Kubrick,
not from Stanley Kubrick. Okay, all right.
If that's true, I'm just saying that was I thought that was pretty interesting.
So in the past 100 years, or actually here, in March 7th, 1971, there was a water vapor that was 100 square miles across that appeared on the moon.
On the moon, yeah. Above a crater.
Yes, and it was there for about 14 hours before it dissipated. Mm-hmm. And there's not supposed to be atmosphere on the moon.
Right.
So how do they get water vapor? And in the past 100 years, there's been 6 astronomers that have documented glowing green mist in that exact same crater. And that crater, its name is Plato. And they've also been able to see boulder tracks on the moon, kind of like how we have those deserts. Walking boulders.
Yeah, in the deserts.
So these ones can be tracked for miles and even going uphill. And
well, that's the fun thing about gravity. When there's lack of gravity,
it still has gravity on the moon. You still have gravity on the moon. And since all the way back to Aristotle,
but I mean that may be still so, but you can still go uphill.
Not when you still have gravity holding you down.
There's not that much gravity.
I don't know. You should check it out.
You should.
So all the way back from Aristotle, astronomers have been seeing strange lights appearing on the moon's surface. Mm-hmm. And so from 1540 to 1967, there have been about 570 documented sightings of light flashes on the moon. And they can't be explained. Even some that can be seen with your bare ass eyes. And in 1992, this crater called the Aristarchus was photographed with a glowing blue light in it. This has been called the blue gem. And it's been seen every few years since then. And it gives some scientists, I don't know if they're playing around when they say it, but they think it could be a nuclear reactor. And that's what's causing
a natural nuclear reactor,
or no, something that's man-made or alien-made. And it happens so frequently with so many different areas on the moon and different craters that they've given the light anomalies a name. They're called TLPs, and it's called a transient lunar phenomena.
So, because I know we have like rovers and other devices on the moon. I wonder if they give off a reflection maybe from the sun. Just an idea.
So they talk about there could be some type of mist or vapors that are impacts, giving off those the small asteroid impacts, and that's what's causing those little light anomalies.
Oh, good.
That's what they think. That's a theory.
Yeah.
And there's also what seems to be artificial objects and structures on the moon. And those have been photographed with like moon towers that are several miles high, pyramids, and other symmetrical structures. And there's this Sergeant Carl Wolf, and he was a whistleblower. And so he was a technician for the Air Force, and he had a top secret crypto clearance. That was, and he was I'll remember his rank in a minute. So he was there to repair equipment that took satellite pictures of the moon, and this was about mid 1965. And which, according to Wolf, there were pictures that he witnessed that had structures, the pictures of the structures on the moon. And he describes there being a moon base, and his story is even corroborated with another technician that was working with him. And he was actually told by, he was a second-class airman. So there was another second-class airman that was there. So what happened was he was told to work on this equipment in a dark area. And he tells this guy, I can't do my job in a dark area. You need to turn the light on. So he ends up turning on the light, and then he ends up telling him, we have pictures of a base on the moon. And he's like, what the hell? So then he starts looking at the pictures. And they say that it's on the other side of the moon, the side that we can't see. Mm-hmm. And that's where this base is. And he ends up seeing structures of mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and these towers. And he knew at that point that they had breached clearance, and he was kind of scared at that point. They only worked on that for about 3 more days before there was no need for them anymore, and they never had a report back there. But he was kind of naive to this, and he was kind of excited. He was kind of scared about the whole point that they breached clearance, but at the same time, he was excited, like, holy shit, this is real shit. This is going to be on the news. Like, this is going to be amazing. And 30 years later, this is now in the 90s, nothing's ever been said about this. He's never heard anything about this. And when trying to reach these, find out about these pictures, NASA had destroyed all of them, just like they always do. They just get rid of any type of evidence. Like, what are you talking about? We never took anything. So he ended up saying that he would testify under oath in front of Congress if he had to say that what he's saying is the truth. And they actually were going to do this. They were like, cool, you can testify. And so they set this whole thing up. And before he could testify, all of a sudden he accidentally gets hit by a car and gets killed.
He was unalived.
Yeah, he was unalived.
Oh, he knew the Clintons.
So, you know, if you know certain people. But it's kind of weird that he was kind of shut up that way.
Yeah.
And this was the 90s when they were real hush-hush.
Right.
The Clintons were in the 90s, too. You know?
I was there.
I was there in the 90s. So, Hollow Moon Theory was kind of laughing about it, like the Hollow Earth Theory, you know, just because it's like, what the hell, come on. But it turns out to be kind of interesting and kind of mind-opening to different possibilities, not just what we've known about, because I never gave a shit about if the moon was made of cheese or not, but like the weirder it got weirder as you find more things out.
I don't care if the moon is hollow. My question is, why would the moon be hollow?
Or who made it hollow, and why would it be hollow?
Was it always hollow?
Why do people
was it
care?
Because what if we're about to have an invasion coming out of the moon? Well, we could have stopped it if you would have actually paid attention and cared.
I don't think I could have stopped anything.
You could have done something about it, damn it.
I don't think I could have.
This podcast can warn everyone.
You could have been the warning that everyone needed.
All 50 of you. You'll be safe.
They'll know what to do.
But what's the purpose of knowing if the moon is hollow or if it's...
Well, scientists were just trying to study the moon, and it just created more questions is all. It just became a deeper hole. It's like, why? Yeah, just trying to figure out, okay, you know, this shouldn't be hard to figure out. It was probably created when the Earth was created. And so we'll just take some samples to figure out some things, and all of a sudden it just created more questions. And then more questions. And then looking into deeper things about different cultures, they talk about the moon showing up and about there being weird creatures living on the moon. Reptilians. I never even knew about reptilians until, you know, probably in my 20s. Apparently, the Zulu Nation knew about them a long time ago.
Is it hollow because it's used as a vehicle?
I don't know if it's used as a vehicle or if it's as a space station or as a base.
Well, just recently, like a couple months ago, China or India just was filming the dark side of the moon.
What'd they find?
They just took pictures. Nothing. They just took pictures of the dark side of the moon.
Pretty sure they found pillars.
But Well, let's talk about that because you kind of just mentioned that, but that's pretty significant that you said that on satellite images there seems to be like towers or buildings,
Pyramids.
There seems to be these type of structures on satellite cameras. I don't remember if I've talked about this on this podcast or another podcast. I've talked about it. Remind me if I have. But I have heard these interviews of people having a 20 and back. Mm-hmm. They experienced 20 years of their life. I remember, and then they woke up as like if nothing happened.
We talked about this before in an episode.
On this episode?
I don't know if it was on this podcast, but we definitely have.
I know it was this podcast.
It was this podcast. Okay.
So it was the guy with the big head and the gray hair.
Yeah, and he went and served all this time on the moon base, and then came back.
And he fought aliens.
Yeah,
and there were different types of aliens from different planets that were.
It was like a command center. It was like a command center with different races coming in,
and they went to other parts, other planets, and they fought creatures.
Oh, and he was probably digging out the moon. He was probably mining out the moon.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean that's a stretch, but not really. Yeah. He totally did that.
And
I was there.
There's these stories of people that this wasn't the only story of a 20 and back. So again, 20 back is all of a sudden they go to sleep, they get abducted, they spend 20 years working,
mining out the moon,
being soldiers, fighting other alien-like creatures from other planets, and then all of a sudden they wake up and they're a teenager again. They're like, I just had
with PTSD.
I just had 20
sore
years.
back.
Yeah, so. And there's a few people that have had these type of experiences, and they're saying there's bases on the dark side of the moon where you don't really get to see it that much. And apparently, India or China, I may have to look right now, recently just went there.
They did a 20 and back.
No, they just took pictures.
So this was my scientific idea of why the craters are all the same depth. Mm-hmm. Would be because of the density. There might be a lot of caves and caverns that run through the moon that make it so porous and make it less dense, which make it more hollow-ish. And if that were to create more of like a cushion to these craters or these asteroids and meteors that hit it, and so when they hit it and it kind of sinks in, think of like a bouncy ball, and it kind of squishes in and then pushes back out with like a recoil. What if it were to do that, and that recoil bounce back pushes what would have been caved in and pushes it back out? Maybe that they're all kind of the same depth because of that pushback.
I like it. Let's do that.
But this is science thinking. It's not my crazy usual alien thoughts.
That's definitely science thinking.
But yeah, I thought this was.
It was China, yeah.
I thought this was very interesting, though.
In June. This is China in June.
Okay, and they didn't want us. They didn't want to give away what they saw. Why would they give that away?
By the way, so if people were wondering, episode 82, the time traveling alien abduction.
That's the 20 and back.
That's the 20 and back that we talked about. A gentleman named Tony Rodriguez.
Yes.
So if you want to know more about that 20 and back, go listen to episode 82.
But yeah. I think it's very interesting, especially with the older rock being on top and the newer rock being underneath. That would only make sense with digging and pulling things out. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. You know who would have the answers? It would be John Lithgow and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
We should definitely get them on the show.
And Shatner, actually.
We should definitely.
I believe Shatner. Was it French Stewart as well? I don't remember the woman's name.
Oh, yeah, I don't know her name.
The incoming message from the big giant head.
Well, I do know that Elon Musk wants to have settlements on other planets or on other structures, just in case anything happens to Earth.
Doesn't Bezos want that as well?
I don't know.
I think he moved his direction towards something else.
Oh, is he Bill Gates' friend now?
Because Elon is very interested in space discovery and exploring.
Didn't he build a rocket last year?
He's been building rockets, man.
all the time. He just landed one just a couple weeks ago. Perfectly landed a rocket that was out in space.
Nice.
There's a Tesla car orbiting right now, I think, with like a mannequin inside of it.
Oh, that's been around for a while, yeah.
Yeah, you can fly a car to space. I saw it in Fast and Furious 9.
Easily. It's easy now.
Anyone can do it. You can send your Pinto to space.
What do you think about that? Elon setting up, and he thinks it might happen in his lifetime.
Well, he's got enough money. He can probably make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to do it, but what do you think of that personally? Like, do you like the idea of being able to travel to these or having settlements taken up there?
I don't know if I would like that because when they talk about the settlements in Mars, you would have to. It's a 10-year one-way ticket, and once you get there, you're not coming back.
Is it 10 years?
10 year.
Wow, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
So the way I would see this going down is, have you seen the movie Elysium?
No,
I did.
Matt Damon.
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember if I did or not.
Desolate Earth in the future. There is, instead of having this like on other planets, there's just this big giant space station that you can see from Earth, where like the rich, like super elite, live. And they have these like machines that can cure anything, right? The cancer or whatever, they can regrow limbs and stuff like that. Where all the people that are technically like in poverty still live here on the earth working like crap jobs. So I can see something like that if they put other like communities or whatever on other planets, if they find a way to make it so people can live like on Mars, for example. I see it being a thing for only the rich elite people, and I'm kind of fine with that, but at the same time I'm not, because that would like probably kill the economy of the world.
Or like Wall-E, where they're out in space in a ship.
Yes.
Did you see Wall-E?
I have not seen that. I've seen parts of it, but I see that I see that being a thing where they're only going to allow like the super rich to go live on these other planets.
Well,
they do something like
I've
that.
seen some things talking about the moon and the not necessarily being that it's hollowed out for bases or anything, but creating something where we can do something within the caverns there to sustain life, to see if life can live within the moon, within these caverns and caves, by bringing just a few supplies of things necessary to start things, but to plant the seed, I guess. But there's series about that happening and that being talked about. But of course, who would be there? The elites.
Yep.
Because they can afford it. Right?
We wouldn't be there. Well,
Because he's on the welfare.
Did you see Interstellar?
Of course.
I don't know if I like that movie.
You should watch it again and find out.
Oh, so speaking of movies, guess what I saw?
What?
Heretic.
Well, let's finish this first.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about that.
But let's not forget it either.
Interstellar. So Brandy told me to watch it, and that was a.
So you're saying bad call, bro?
It was a mind f. That was
it is.
a mind freak. Yeah,
it is. I like it.
Yeah, it was. It was interesting, and again, it was talking about like the Earth is I don't know, dying. I don't know, just it's bad weather, dust, rain.
Time to get out of here.
Yeah, so that's what his job is trying to find other planets that can sustain life like Earth does. And I don't remember the ending. But
The part of that movie that I remember that I found the most interesting is when he goes on to that water planet. Mm-hmm. And the way they did this was actually really cool, because every like 30 seconds or so you hear this clicking noise, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that clicking noise represents 1 Earth year. So every 30 seconds or whatever, how long, or every minute or whatever the time frame was, every time you hear that clicking noise, 1 year has passed in Earth time. So when he has only been there for like maybe 5-10 minutes, he gets back up to the space station with everybody else, and it's been like 50 years for them.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that concept was kind of cool to see.
I
how, like,
forgot a lot of things in that.
Yeah, it's a mind
I've
freak.
only seen it once, but I do remember kind of like the ending. I remember the one scene at the beginning where like someone pushes a book where they think it's like a ghost.
Yeah.
And then they showed at the end it was him. He did
Trying
it.
Trying
to communicate with himself. It was really interesting just to kind of see how they explain like time and space.
It's a mind freak.
Yeah, and I think that's why I don't remember a lot of it, because I was like, oh my God.
I'm freaking out.
Freaking out, man. Yes, you are freaking out, man. The snozberries taste like snozberries. I want to watch a whole nother movie right now.
So, what do you guys think about the Earth, or not the Earth, but the moon being hollow?
Earth hollow, yes. Moon, no.
Okay.
The moon being hollow, I don't think is hollow. I don't know the significance if it was or was not anyway. And I do think there's a lot of interesting things about the moon, like the possibility of bases or other alien life using our moon, or we're having meetings on the moon with other alien life. I think that's a little interesting.
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there as
Like,
well.
all I know is when I put the cool thing is like you can actually put your crystals and your stones and whatever outside at night during a full moon, and you can actually feel the change of energy on your crystals. Like you can feel the moon re-energize them and kind of cleanse
That's
them.
those ancient moon rocks from before the solar system started.
So I mean, there are some, like DVO said, there are some really fascinating things about the moon and what it does. But I'm kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel the same way as you. Is it's like, why do we need to know if it's hollow?
Yeah.
Like, what difference would it make if we find out that it is hollow? Like, is it gonna be some like big cultural significance?
Well, so do I think it's hollow? Yes, obviously, based off its density, it has to be hollow. But do I think it's a base inside of the moon? No, I don't. I think there's just like a lot of caverns and caves that run through the moon, and it's very porous. And I don't think that I might think, I am open to the possibility of there being a base on the other side of the moon. Because have we seen it? No, we have not.
No, because they've got their thrusters on it, keeping the moon facing us.
So this is the thing that really does make me weird about the moon. I've always thought about it since a kid. Is like, why can we only see that picture of the moon? And I do think it is very fascinating that it is set up the way it is, that we only see that, and that only happens because of where it sits, the size of it, and all that. That I didn't realize that till looking into this, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And
I actually found out about it from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He actually talked about it one time.
Oh, nice.
And that's how I found out about it. And I only found out about it recently as well, where he said, I think someone had asked him if he thinks we landed on the moon. He does think we landed on the moon.
I believe he said something along the lines that it would be easier to send someone to the moon than to fake the moon landing. And I think Adam from Adam Ruins Everything also said the same thing. They had a whole episode on that. Mm-hmm. But to ask the question again, what would change in your life, or what would change in the life of humanity if we knew that the moon was hollow?
Nothing. It's just very interesting. Well, not that we knew it was hollow. It obviously has to be based off its density.
I don't think it has
obviously to be. It has to be because you said so.
I don't
just based off its density. Its density alone would kind of make sense.
Have
that
we put it in a glass of water to see how it floats?
It would float. It would have to float. Just kidding. To prove this theory, it's floating. Damn it.
I mean, how do you measure the moon's density and be 100% accurate?
By running things into it and size.
Because you're dunking it in Oreo.
Duh.
Yeah.
How else?
Science,
man. That's how.
That's the only way is
it floats in water. That's how we tested it.
Exactly. That's how.
It's not the only way. I'm sure they've done other ways, but that's just the only way that made sense.
I don't know.
But to test it,
I'm not sold on it.
Baby.
I'm not sold on that because they crashed things into it and it made ring now that it has to be.
I'm going off
hollow.
of a lot of different scientists. A lot of scientists also claiming that the only way this actually makes sense is if the moon was hollow. Not saying that there's a base on the moon, but just saying that it's porous as F.
Okay.
Let's say that it is.
Porous AF.
Let's just tell the scientists that it's hollow, and they can move on and try to figure out things that are important.
I wanted them to figure out the dark side of the moon.
I do too. And why do you think they killed this dude?
So
why do you think this dude got killed?
So here's the thing. I had a question that we talk about, like there's satellite images of the moon, right? Mm-hmm. Why can't we throw a satellite that orbits the moon and takes pictures of all sides?
And we have.
Where are these pictures in?
Dude saw him and he got suicided
like
for
now. That was in the 90s or
that was in the 60s.
60s, right? So now in 2024, I'm going to contact Mr.
Yeah,
Elon
Musk. Why don't you find out?
I'm going to ask my good friend and fan of the show, Elon Musk, and if he could send a satellite to orbit the moon.
Let's do it. Send us up to the moon.
I don't want to go.
It's not that far.
Well, apparently
it is.
Apparently, China is the only one that has been able to get a satellite to the dark side.
Why
of the moon.
is that?
Didn't they just crash something on the moon? Like we talked about this like last year, I think it was. They recently, was it China or Japan? They crashed something on the moon recently.
I don't remember. I don't remember that.
China's the only one that's openly stating that they put one up there.
Yeah, I know that they sent something up and it like crashed on the moon
to test its density.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and it vibrated
like a bell.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours.
3-hour tour.
It landed in a crater that they're the Chinese satellite, and they've done this twice now.
So it's what, getting shot down?
What's that?
It's getting shot down, or
No,
they're crashing it?
I said they landed. I said they landed.
So they landed a satellite.
Yeah,
Interesting.
in a crater.
Okay. What is it supposed to study? Just
It
minerals?
said I don't have time to read this whole thing right
gotcha.
now.
It's a big story.
But it looks like they do want to sample the moon. Yeah, it is drilling.
Because they're not going to take our word for it. I like that.
They are getting material. They are scooping and drilling, so that they can bring it back.
I want to find out
here.
what China finds out, because maybe, who knows? Maybe they're telling us bullshit. Maybe I want to know what China knows.
They're trying to find out more of the solar system's information.
Just watch more TikTok. China will tell you everything.
They're trying to find out everything from you on TikTok.
That's probably true.
Well,
I think Will Ferrell said it best in his Harry Carey impersonation on Saturday Night Live. Hey, we all know the moon is made of green cheese, but if it was made of barbecue spare ribs, would you eat it then?
was that Bill Cosby, or is that?
That's my.
Harry
That's
Carey?
me trying to pretend
That's
to be
Harry
Will
Cosby.
Will Ferrell being Harry Carey. I do a better Bill Cosby, I guess. You just put the pudding in the bowl and then you eat the pudding because it's delicious.
Well,
boy, I'll tell you what.
I think that's it for the moon.
Is it?
What do you guys think?
Are we going to go back to the moon?
Well,
The
Dark side.
of the moon?
I want to
go
go back
to
to
the
the
dark
dark
side
side
Or the
for
dark side
sure.
of the moon?
For sure.
What was that episode again? Episode 83 we talked about?
Probably.
82, 83, something around
Yeah,
there.
I think it was 83. Time
traveling.
Alien abduction.
20 and back
Good
theory.
old story of Tony Rodriguez.
It's an interesting story. I think if you guys have not watched or listened to it, you should go check out that episode, because I thought it was pretty interesting.
It was interesting.
Whether it's real or not, it's a great story.
I think if you're listening to this episode, you should have already listened to that episode, and you should go back
But
and
we
re-listen.
get new listeners and viewers every day.
I know.
And they need to go back and listen to it so they know what we're talking about.
Right.
And then go back to see why the Earth could be hollow.
This is actually a good episode. I think our last episode is also a good episode to start out with. The case of Josue.
Yeah, which we are going to go back to that case.
We have already gone back to that
We
case.
have already gone back to that case.
We've already gone back to that case. We've already done part 2.
Part 2. You
Yes.
should listen to that. Go back and listen to that.
Go back and listen to that one as well. Podcasting magic.
And how are you going to find us?
We're going to find us on evp.pod at Instagram and Facebook. And if you have a theory of the dark side of the moon, whether or not it's all hollow or just that half,
Or if it's cheese.
or if it's cheese or barbecue spare ribs, you can email us at evp.pod@gmail.com. And then after you've done all that fun stuff, telling us how we're wrong or we're right, whatever you choose to side with, go check out our affiliate link to ghoststop.com. Buy some really cool ghost hunting gear. I know they're making new stuff all the time.
They are.
So, yeah, check out our affiliate link. Buy some ghost hunting gear. Do the ghost hunting.
Pretty soon I'm going to have snakes for sale too. You should buy some of those.
Yes, those are paranormal snakes. They
Paranormal snakes.
They glow in the dark.
And they hiss when ghosts are around. All right, guys. Ghosts who don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies.
Wally. This is the EVP Podcast.